Right, okay.
You've just done it.
No, I will delete, yes.
Delete it now.
No, I'm talking. I will delete it in a moment. This is an emotional time for me. Yes, dog. I have never cried during a video that we've done, I don't think. But I might do.
No, don't be ridiculous.
I might, though. Right, so we're going to do our ode to McCoy after this, which we do at the end of every Doctor. But we've got to wrap up this story, so let's laser focus in, and then we'll spin ourselves out. I am blown away by this story, and the weird thing is, I've seen Survival times, and obviously this was the period where I was watching Doctor Who as a kid, and this was obviously, although I didn't know it at the time, none of us knew it at the time, this was the final episode of the classic run of Who, and I can't remember what date this was on. We'll find out later when we do our research, our facting up. But this obviously came on the back of Ghostlight, which was just like, wow, and then Curse of Fenrir, obviously. And so in terms of the general sort of energy of the season, this almost is like more mooted. It's more slow paced. It's more spacious, I suppose, especially compared to Curse of Fenric. Oh my goodness! But as I'm watching it now, and Libby's already sent me the emojis. That's very, very efficient. I'm very impressed. Whether it's because of having watched them all in sequence, with a bit of hindsight thrown in, or perhaps more pertinently, being now a 45-year-old exceptionally handsome man, it's entirely feasible that this was too much for me as a kid. I said partway through this episode, I thought I'd love for Humphrey to see this, Winnie as well, obviously my daughter as well, because I think this is a very powerful sequence of Doctor Who. But actually, it's so visceral, and it's so tooth and claw, and whatnot. But it's so beautiful as well. I mean, it's just really, it's not a term we use for Doctor Who very often. We've just watched, there we go, crossing the timelines, Rogue, and that's a beautiful Doctor Who story in its own way. But this is sort of intrinsically beautiful. There's that sequence at the start which is sort of using sort of slow motion when, is it Kara? I think it's Kara, and Ace are running together. And there's the sort of, the deft and sometimes not quite so deft camera cuts where they've got the contact lenses in and they're changing their eye colour. But, and Lib, do you know how we define Impressionism as an art movement?
Are you asking me to define it?
I'm just curious if you know how to define it.
What, like as in your testing?
Like, no, I don't, no, genuinely, because there was one of the stories recently I talked about being abstract, okay, and look, when I do use these terms, I'm an English literature person, but I have to go and look them up. I have to think about them in context. But there's something about this story that's different. There's something about this story that feels unlike any other Doctor Who story. I'm not going to say since, because there's a lot of Doctor Who stories since.
Hyperbole.
No, but have you looked up what Impressionism is? Because you would.
To look at what impressionism.
Well, tell me what Impressionism is then. I know it's Debussy and stuff, and water lilies and stuff.
Like what the art, it's depicted specifically by, I don't know how, I'm not very good at explaining things, but like being able to see the brush strokes. So it's not an exact representation
Okay.
of what you're painting. You can see that it's a painting.
So
it's usually done sort of quickly rather than over a longer period.
So in a layman's terms, and I'm not a fine art person, it's blurry, and I'm not using that as I'm not being pejorative, but it's blurry, isn't it? There's something blurry about this story. There's something about it that's sort of smudged and the colours are spilling over on
It
each
feels
other.
hazy.
Yeah. And I'm not just talking about the camera work, although there is an element of that in the camera work. But there's just something about the storytelling of it where it's almost as if, oh God, I'm expressing this. God, I wish I thought this through. But and the more I think about it, the more I think I'm right. The characters almost
Sounds
just,
like you.
thank you. The characters almost sort of like become each other a little bit. Like these elements, like when the Doctor is taken over by the planet and he recognises what's going on, and there's something very fluid about this. There we go. I'll go with that. There's something very fluid about this. And I do think I'm onto something with that. And I think that, though, that is an incredibly fitting way, not to finish the classic run. That's not a fitting way to finish the classic run. But in terms of the way that the storytelling has been moving in this final era of Classic Who, it's so bold and brave to do that. And I'm not discounting the fact, and you know, this is a female author, and I think there is something about that. You know, I think back to Enlightenment. Shocking, I can't remember the lady who wrote Enlightenment. I do feel embarrassed. But, do you know, honestly, I was about to say it's by Fiona Bruce, and it wasn't by Fiona Bruce, because there are only 3 women in the world, and one of them is my wife. So there we go. But
What? 3 women?
it's a joke. You're every woman. It's only you.
So I think Fiona Bruce, me and who?
And Rona Munro wrote Survival.
Oh my God.
But my point is this. You think back to Enlightenment, and Enlightenment was a very different feeling story. And Survival is a very different feeling story. And it's just glorious and it's beautiful. Let's quickly run through, because we're going to talk about McCoy in great depth in a minute.
I love him.
Oh, no, I love him too.
His real name is Percy.
I know. He used to put weasels down his trousers, or ferrets. I remember. He used to put hammers up his nose. And we'll talk about him in a minute. This is Ainley's best performance as the Master. This is Ainley's best performance as the Master. It's possibly his best script as the Master as well. So you know, let's share the credit around. The whole Midge element to it, you know, where the Master, what a nice parallel. The Master gets companion here. Cheeky. I like that. The Sergeant gets his comeuppance early on. Oh, that moment. I've forgotten the name of the kid. But where Ace goes to the Sergeant and says, "Thanks, Ace. Thanks, Doctor. Thanks for saving my life." And then the kid says it and runs away. That's beautiful. What a lovely middle moment. I love I know we said this in episode 1, but I love the setting of this. Libby grew up in places not too dissimilar to this. And you imagine being a kid in the 1980s. Some of you won't know this, Stuart, but being a kid in the 1980s, apologies, Stuart, watching this and seeing where you lived on a screen. You know, I've walked around where Midge's flat was, and I've been on those sort of scrubby playing fields where there was a sofa dumped. Yeah. I'm going to shout her out because,
Hey.
well, I love my wife, but I also love Lisa Bowman. Slightly undercutting that.
Quite a lot of women in your life at the minute.
Yeah, there's another woman. There you go. There are many of them. But I love Lisa Bowman because she plays Bernice Summerfield in the in Big Finish, and that's a mighty field. And Bernice Summerfield, we're not going to cover because we're not going to do. We'll talk about this later. That moment with Ace at the end is so powerful and so beautiful. And the fact that she's able to give a performance in all the flipping cheetah people makeup, but prosthetics, whatever. But that relationship with Ace, now you see again, I'm a 45-year-old man. Weirdly, this has dropped at a weird time.
You're a 46-year-old man?
No, I'm not. I'm 46 on the 3rd.
Oh, was it your birthday?
Yeah. That moment at the end, I'm currently reading for school. Did I mention this the other day? Apologies if I did. A load of LGBTQ plus literature. I've got this presentation to do. I've just agreed to it, and it's joyous and it's wonderful. I'm actually honoured about being asked, because I'm white and straight and able-bodied,
Are you?
and yes, I really am, and middle class and well educated. I'm only middle class now. I wasn't middle class when I was born, but anyway, that moves on. But my point is this: I didn't get the queerness of that moment, and it's magnificent, it's beautiful, and so before its time, and just Christ, I mean, I wish I'd spotted that as a kid. I'd be more progressed as a human being now if I'd spotted that as a kid, because we should all progress as human beings, because that's a marvellous thing. That's all I've got to say about survival. Like, genuinely, it's blown me away, those 3 episodes. I hadn't recognised. I'm going to text Paul and John in a minute. I'm just going to say, survival's like one of the most impressive achievements of classic Who, and I don't think I ever really realised it. And it'll be one I talk about now. I've not talked about survival for years, and I'm going to find myself mentioning it when people ask me about classic Who, and I'm going to be saying.
I love the idea you think people ask you about.
People do ask me, Lib, though. No, people do ask me. People ask me about Doctor Who all the time, and I'm flattered that they do. But people ask me because, I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about this stuff because stop it, because I can see now what I couldn't see as a kid, which is that survival was as progressive a piece of television, that was on at flipping, I don't know what time it was on, 7 o'clock. That must, as progressive a piece of television at 7 o'clock as almost any other piece of television at that point in our culture. And I genuinely believe that to be true. I haven't done the research, and it's completely spurious, but I'm going to go with it and prove me wrong. You won't. There we go. Right. Done. Next thing, as we always do at the end of a season, is we need to recap the season. And sadly, with Sylve's seasons, there's only 4 things to say, so we'll say them. Battlefield, all right. Better than all right, actually. The moments in Battlefield are class. I think what surrounds those moments is questionable. But if you've got great moments, then you've got great episodes of Doctor Who, so we'll take that. Ghostlight. Gee, Ghostlight's amazing. Ghostlight, what a beautiful puzzle that is. Curse of Fenric, a jewel in the crown of Doctor Who, of any era of Doctor Who. Sandifer says in her review of Curse of Fenric, it's as good a piece of television as you would ever find, or she said, I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to misquote Elizabeth Sandifer because she would rip me to shreds.
I would rip her to shreds.
No, you wouldn't. You got to stick around.
I can't agree.
Okay. And then we get Survival, which, as I've tried to express in the last 30 minutes, is just something of beauty. An absolute thing of beauty. Before I go, and I've been meaning to say it for the last 3 videos, R.I.P. my cat, Gaia. There's my dog. You would not believe how much I love my dog. But I loved my cat. My cat featured in many of these videos, and all the way through Survival, I've been thinking, God, Gaia should be here for this. So wherever you are, Gaia, you're dead. But I'm an atheist, so you're definitely dead. And you're wherever, you're atomic now. You're atomic. You're stardust, Gaia. Oh my God. Right, to the next video. Ode to McCoy. Yes, if you've wasted your life for this 14 minutes, God knows what I'm going to say in the next one.